Hey, what's going on? This is my video about the 2003 Ring of Honor DVD shows. Just going to quickly review each show. All right, first show is Revenge on the Prophecy. This took place in January of 2003. This is a pretty underrated show, pretty decent stuff. The main event was very good. Christopher Daniels and Xavier squared off against AJ Styles and Loki. This is like a 30-minute tag match. This is a very good tag match. At the end of the match, AJ Styles did a Styles Clash to Christopher Daniels, and Loki kind of got his revenge on Xavier. So that's why it's called Revenge on the Prophecy. Just a very solid tag match. Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson had a decent match. Decent for them. I thought it was pretty good. The other match that was pretty much stole the show was Paul London, BJ Whitmer, Homicide, and Colt Cabana. They just had an excellent Fatal 4-Way #1 Contenders match. #1 Contenders Trophy match. I thought that was an excellent match. And yeah, this is it was a small show, but it was pretty underrated, pretty decent show. Next up, we get the 1-year anniversary show. This is a mixed bag. You get a lot of great stuff in here, but there's a lot of bad stuff as well. This is probably like the weirdest show in Ring of Honor history. So we get Mark and Jay Briscoe. They had a match, brother versus brother. And this is underrated. I thought this was excellent. The Briscoe brothers work very well together, and this was just another great match from them. Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe had a rematch from the last show, which was excellent again. And this is the match where Steve Corino and Homicide finally had their big match, but the match was not that good. This is one of their weaker matches, but there was a riot after the match, and I thought they just focused too long on the riot. They showed like exclusive footage of the riot, which I really didn't think was necessary, and it just dragged on too long. The whole segment, it went for about an hour, so with the whole bonus footage and everything like that. So the other match on here, this is the best match on the show. This is definitely probably the second best match of the year. This is Paul London versus Loki versus AJ Styles. The winner of this match will actually face Xavier, but this triple threat match was awesome. This is definitely a match to see. Just athleticism like you wouldn't believe. These three guys just work really well together. So Paul London will actually win this match and face Xavier in a pretty decent match. Definitely one of Xavier's better world title matches. The main event sucked. It was a scramble match with all the tag teams. Crowd really wasn't into it. They just tried to do too much. It was just totally overbooked. So yeah, I mean, there's some bad stuff on here, but I think the good definitely outweighs the bad, and it's definitely one of the top 5 shows of the year. So next up is Expect the Unexpected. This is a decent show. No match of the year candidates, but it's a good show as far as storylines go. This is where the Punk and Raven feud started. They had a decent match actually on the show. Other good stuff on here was Chad Collyer and Matt Stryker. They had a pretty good technical wrestling match to open up the show. AJ Styles actually won a tag team scramble match by himself because Paul London was out. So he actually picked Amazing Red as his tag team partner for the main event. So the main event was AJ Styles and Amazing Red versus Christopher Daniels and Xavier for the World Tag Team titles. They actually won the belts, but this was just a decent match. It wasn't that great. It was okay. Everything else in here was pretty much average. There was a great Loki match. Loki and his squad versus Special K. Loki just beat the shit out of Special K. This was like a pretty bad ass whipping. So it's definitely worth checking out. Alright, so next up is Night of Champions. Night of Champions is an excellent show. It's definitely one of the better shows of the year. A lot of match of the year candidates on here. We get Christopher Daniels and Doug Williams put on an excellent technical wrestling match. This is for the FWA title and the #1 Contenders Trophy. That was an excellent match. That was probably one of Christopher Daniels' best matches in Ring of Honor. And for the World Tag Team titles, this was a classic match. We get AJ Styles and Amazing Red versus the Briscoes. Definitely probably the best ROH Tag Team title match up to that point. And probably the best tag team match of 2003. Loki and Jody Fleisch had an awesome match. Jody Fleisch, I always say his name wrong. Loki and Jody Fleisch. And Xavier and Samoa Joe had an ROH World title match. This is where Samoa Joe defeated Xavier to win the title. Pretty historic moment. The match was kind of mediocre, but it was awesome to see Joe win the belt. That was the start of his 21-month title reign. Next up, we get the Epic Encounter. This is a one-match show, I'll be honest with you. There was a pretty decent rematch with Amazing Red and AJ Styles and the Briscoes. Just a little bit too short. Everything else was very short, and the main event was horrible. It was like a bunkhouse riot match. Definitely not worth checking out. But the match this has the match of the year on it though. It's Paul London and Bryan Danielson in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Definitely think this is one of the best. People say this is probably the best match in Ring of Honor history up to that point. That was an awesome match. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. It went about 41 minutes. But like I said, the main event it's a bunkhouse riot match with Homicide's group versus Carino's group, and I just thought it was pretty much like a garbage brawl. Dusty Rhodes was actually involved in the match, but I just didn't like it. But like I said, this is definitely worth checking out because it has the match of the year on it, even though it's a one-match show. It's Paul London versus Bryan Danielson. Definitely check that out. All right, next up, Round Robin Challenge 2. I thought this was an excellent show. Definitely probably the most underrated show of the year. I thought the Round Robin Challenge was excellent. It featured Amazing Red, Christopher Daniels, and Paul London. I thought every single match in the Round Robin Challenge was great. Well, not great, but at least good. I thought the last match between Paul London and Daniels was excellent. Just an excellent match to end the Round Robin Challenge. Christopher Daniels actually won this edition of the Round Robin Challenge. So yeah, Amazing Red actually lost 2 matches here. But the match that stole the show on here was Homicide and CM Punk. They just had an awesome match. It was a lot of drama, a ton of near falls. These guys just put their bodies on the line. I thought it was great. And Samoa Joe and Doug Williams had a pretty decent world title match. It was just decent. So yeah, this is an underrated show. Next up is Do or Die. Unfortunately, Do or Die it's not a good show from top to bottom. It's just there's a lot of crap on here. A lot of guys trying to make a name for themselves, which is a good thing. But overall, the show just kind of fell flat overall. However, it did have the awesome Samoa Joe Homicide match. This is where Homicide almost killed himself just to win the belt. And the finish was awesome. The whole storyline of the match was awesome. Homicide and Joe just have a ton of chemistry. Some other things on the show. CM Punk cut a great promo after his tag team scramble match with Colt Cabana. That was an awesome promo. He was insulting the ECW Straw Hat guy after the match, which was pretty cool to see. And he cut another awesome promo on Raven. So Do or Die, I say it's a weak show overall. You know, the main event is great, but you know the undercard is just pretty horrible. Night of Grudges is next up. Night of Grudges is another one-match show. AJ Styles and Paul London, probably one of the best matches of the year. Definitely one of the best matches in Ring of Honor history still. Just an epic technical, or not technical, just a... Jimmy Balor on commentary said that this match was wrestling perfection, and that's pretty much the best way to sum it up. That was just an awesome match. But besides that, there's really nothing much to talk about here. The four-way scramble match with Homicide, John Walters, Sabin, and Just Incredible was decent. The main event was terrible. Well, it wasn't terrible, but it just fell flat. It was the Carino's group versus the Prophecy. Carino's group was actually led by Samoa Joe here, and they took on the Prophecy. Dan Moff actually pinned Samoa Joe to get the win. So the group that was led by Steve Corino actually disbanded after this show. So, but that main event just fell flat. Definitely one of the weaker main events in ROH history. Next show is called Wrestle Rave. A very good show here. Another underrated show. This is where CM Punk cut his awesome promo, his straight edge promo on Raven. That was an awesome promo. Samoa Joe and Dan Moff had a pretty underrated world title match. Definitely a lot better than expected. AJ Styles and Chris Sabin had an NWA world title match that was very good. It was short, but it was nice, short, and sweet. And the main event was awesome. It was Trent Acid versus Homicide, a fight without honor match. A lot of people would say this is probably Trent Acid's best match ever. This is when Homicide was just on a tear. Homicide just put his body on the line, put on another great performance here. And the last show I'll talk about is Death Before Dishonor. This is the first Death Before Dishonor match. This is kind of like the WrestleMania of 2003. It definitely felt like a big show. 1,200 people were packed into the Rexplex in New Jersey, the Rexplex. Yeah, this show was just pretty stacked with a lot of good stuff here. Even the bad stuff was memorable. I'll talk about Jeff Hardy first. Jeff Hardy actually had a match on here against Joey Matthews and Crazy K. He really didn't give a shit in this match. You could tell he was just going through the motions, but the fans booed the shit out of him. So it was pretty fun for that. The great matches on here. was Homicide versus BJ Whitmer versus Colt Cabana versus Dan Moff in a four-way match. That was an excellent match. That match probably stole the show here. CM Punk and Raven had a great dog collar match. The whole segment and the whole aftermath was awesome. This show kind of reminded me of ECW. Like, if you want to pick one show that has that ECW type of feel from Ring of Honor, I'd say that the first Death Before Dishonor is probably it. AJ Styles and Amazing Red faced the Briscoes in another great match. I thought this was great. Not as good as the first match, but better than the second match. And Samoa Joe and Paul London had a pretty good match to close off the show. It wasn't great. It was about maybe 3.5 stars. But I thought it was pretty solid. Paul London, this was his last Ring of Honor match before he went to WWE. And I'll be back with the next set of shows coming up.